Hi, I'm Jimmy Colefax, and this is The Story. We're continuing with Shelley Scowen chatting with a truly global couple, Robin and Aileen Beiers. Next, we'll hear more about their world travels and how, in their retirement years, they're combining trips overseas with ministry work in various countries.
We've found out a bit about your international travels, but you've lived in a number of places around the world. Robin, tell us about some of the places that you have lived and I guess where your career has taken you in geology.
Yeah, sure. I was a petroleum geologist, and I worked for a French company. So they had permits and oil all over the world. I was based in Brisbane. They sent me to 9 months training in France. From there, of course, I worked in France. I worked in New Zealand, New Guinea, Australia with them. Then eventually I quit them. Then I got another job. I was offered another job in Canada. So we moved to Canada and lived in Canada for 3.5 years, which is the climate difference between Canada, Quebec City and Brisbane is quite enormous, actually.
Yes, yeah.
And I worked for that company, the French Sokip, it was called, a French-Canadian oil company, and I worked in Canada, USA, did a little bit of work in West Africa, that's about where I moved.
You're a scientist, a geologist. You're obviously fascinated with God's design and with the things that He's made for us. Why are you so passionate about rocks, about the earth? What is it that gets you excited about it?
Well, I think it's very ordered and there's principles by which it works. I mean, I'm thinking about geology.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about petroleum geology. The formation of oil is a very slow process. Natural gas and oil is the biggest business in the world. I mean, Shell or BP have budgets that are equal to countries.
Wow.
And it was a world that I was in. I was only in it for 10 years, then I became a high school teacher when I came back to Australia eventually. But it was something that I loved very much and was very exciting and dynamic and, drilling oil wells is a pretty exciting time, especially if you strike something.
So that was part of your job then, just kind of going out and looking. I assume that's probably what you were doing in PNG, was it? In the jungle?
PNG, we were actually doing what we'd call field work. So we were looking at the rocks. Then other places, offshore and onshore, we would actually, having done all that, we'd say, okay, maybe there's some oil or gas here. Let's drill an oil well here. People in charge or with me would say, let's drill an oil well here. And I would be partly responsible for the drilling of that oil well. So you sit on an oil rig for 3 months, then see what you find. Yeah. Sometimes you find exciting stuff, and sometimes
it's nothing, and it was a waste of time. Yeah.
Yeah, well, at least you know nothing's there.
Well, that's true. Process of elimination, you'll find some oil sometime. Why did you change then to teaching science?
I really enjoyed geology. It was an extremely well-paid job. But I thought maybe God had other plans, to summarise it all, and I thought I could help by influencing young people through high school teaching.
Aileen, you've been busy all this time as well. Tell us about your role at Scripture Union.
I actually started off as a volunteer in Scripture Union when my youngest child was in kindergarten, so I used to go along and just do some of their sort of mailing lists and things like that. And then a part-time job came up, and I think I was there for maybe 10 years or so on a part-time basis.
What was your role there?
I was working in a secretarial role basically all the time for various people who were working in the organisation.
Yeah, right. Okay. You've also had some health challenges yourself as well. Robin was telling us about having hepatitis over in Sri Lanka. Yes. You've had some life-threatening illness as well.
I have. I've actually been quite greedy and had breast cancer twice. I wasn't content with having it once.
Yeah, so, went back for more fun second time round.
Yeah. Yes.
How did that affect you as a person?
It was interesting that I never at any point felt that God had deserted me or never really questioned, why are you doing this to me? I think it was more, I found a lot of strength through God. And the interesting thing was that at one stage, some friends were visiting when I was going through chemo, And the wife had become a Christian. The husband was still very sceptical and didn't really want to have anything to do with it. And he asked me very directly, well, I suppose that's affected your faith now that this has happened. And I said to him, well, it hasn't. It's actually made it stronger because I've felt that God has been with me through all of this. And I think that really floored him. He didn't really have anything to say after that. But I literally did feel that that was the way it worked, that God hadn't inflicted this on me, but that he was seeing me through it.
Yeah, that's a wonderful story, and I think a lot of our listeners could identify with that, with God just being close to you at the time that you're feeling very, very low. It did go on to affect you, though, in that you ended up retiring and taking up other roles?
Yes.
You're obviously not very good at sitting around and enjoying a nice, quiet retirement, though. You had to get back out?
No, it hasn't happened yet. We're still waiting for that to happen.
So why did you choose to get up and go and do missions in retirement?
So Aileen contracted breast cancer the first time in 2002, if I'm correct. Yeah, and back in 97, 96, Aileen did a certificate in teaching English to speakers of other languages, mainly for relating to people in Australia. And then we started to think about that. So I did one in 1999, and we started to think, well, maybe this is something we can do at a later date. 2002, breast cancer, all that came along. And we started to think, well, do we have enough money to retire? Because I was 59, yeah. And we investigated that, and yes, we did. So I said, well, it's not much point going to teaching, and it's enough time to get out and do maybe what was something else. And this TESOL, we had the qualifications for that. So we prayed about that at length. And we got a group in our church of people about our age to also pray with us and be sounding boards. What could we do with our certificate for? And back in 2000, we'd spent 3 months in Lebanon using it. So in 2003, having retired, we went back to Lebanon for a year teaching English. And that was the first foray into teaching English as a support to missionaries. We don't consider ourselves missionaries. We're just English teachers who happen to be Christians and work with Christian organisations.
And then you couldn't get enough.
Aileen is quite skilled at it, very good at it, and I look good on paper. But when we were there, we came across an organisation called Arosha, which is an Christian environmental organisation. They were in Lebanon. And then they talked to us, and we went and visited them and on weekends and things like that. And they said, oh, actually, there's a need in France, and we speak French. So they said, why don't you come and work for Arosha? And we said, gee, the south of France, that's pretty hard yards. So we investigated and put our hands up, and again, so we went to the south of France for 7 months, not teaching English. I was doing science work, and Aileen was a cook in their base camp. Then after that, we looked around. The church was involved in the Solomon Islands, so a project in the Solomon. So we went to the Solomon Islands, and then we went to South Korea. We were supposed to go back to Lebanon, but things happened in the country. And we couldn't go back. We put out kind of a few emails, and South Korea came back as a need. And that's where we started going 5-6 years ago.
Yes, and you have been back there a few times too. Why are you passionate about the project there?
It's an organisation called the Missionary Training Institute. They train Korean missionaries in English so that they can be effective in international teams anywhere in the world. So you're working and helping. People are going out to really on the front line. Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, Sudan, all over the place.
I think it's probably as much about the relationships as anything else. And we find that we get so blessed by the people that we teach, these young people who are so on fire for the Lord and just want to go wherever God sends them, just whatever that means in their lives, with families, children. And they often thank us for coming to teach them. But we really need to thank them because we get so inspired by them and by their passion. And we just, unfortunately, we can't keep in touch with all of them, and we would love to, but we just, every time we go there, we fall in love with our group of students and they become like our family.
Yeah.
And so it's really difficult. I've spoken in the chapel time and said, we've left a family behind in Australia to come here, but now we're leaving a family behind in Korea to go back to Australia, because we live with them, we eat with them, and we teach them, and they do become like our family while we're there. And I think that's one of the joys that we have of working in that organisation.
I guess many of those people you don't end up seeing again as well?
No, we don't. So a couple of them we keep on Skype, try to teach their kids a bit of, Aileen does teach their kids a bit of English, but they're off to they're young, they've got young families, they've got blood family in Korea. We just touch them for a few months. It's a live-in situation, so it's intensive. Only English is spoken. Korean is forbidden in the school.
Okay.
It's very hard for them. But it's a kind of a job that...
It's the best way to learn, though, isn't it?
Absolutely,
that immersion. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a job that many Australian people of our age could fit into. It's encouraging. It's great. It's fun.
We're teaching an English class here in a community centre in Wooloowin once a week. And what these people desperately need is Australian friends. And if I can put in a little plug here, Shelley, that anybody who's out there listening, please look around your church, your community, your neighbourhood, and look for refugees and migrants who come out here, because they are the most beautiful, wonderful people. Very often they're very brave to do what they do. And what they really want more than anything is to find friendship of Australian people and be part of the community. So please look around and look for these people and befriend them. Invite them just for a cup of coffee, and they will be absolutely thrilled to bits that someone has taken an interest in them.
Love your thinking. And a real challenge, I think, for all of us too, when we do come across people, and especially those that might find it difficult to make friends as well. It's great for us to be the ones that are proactive and getting out there and reaching out to them. Robin, did you want to add something there?
It's interesting that if we are Christians, we know that we have a hope, and it's a very serious hope. And that's the basis that many people are looking for when they come to a new country. They've left everything behind, they've made big decisions, and will it work out? What is their hope? Their hope is to succeed, raise families, but they are usually quite wise, and they're looking for something deep as well.
It's up to us to reach out to them and be there to explain to them Christianity, the way they can be saved as well.
Exactly. And particularly older people, retired people, there's a huge role out there for them with these young families who've come out here just without any support or any family. As grandparents and parents to these people, it's just so important for them.
Well, time has gotten the better of us. It's time for us to say goodbye. But thank you so much for sharing just a little bit of your story. I know there's many, many stories that have gone untold today, and we could be here for hours listening about some of the people that you've gotten to meet over the years and the other things that you're passionate about. But thank you so much for taking the time to share your story, and I'm sure it's been encouragement to many.
Thank you. Thank you, Shirley.
Thank you. Thanks, Shirley.
What a wonderful way to spend your retirement years, travelling and ministering to others. And as we just heard, Robin and Aileen Beiers say, we don't necessarily have to travel. We can minister to people from other countries right where we are in our own community. We can extend the hand of friendship to them, and they'll really appreciate it. Also, if you're a regular listener to the story, you'll be interested to know that a guest we had on recently, Mim Rodda, is their daughter. And you may recall she shared about what it's like growing up in a home with people from different cultures coming in on a regular basis. She really enjoyed it. In case you missed it, you can hear Mim's interview on our website. Just go to vision.org.au. That's vision.org.au and look up The Story, and you'll find all our past programs. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm Jimmy Colefax, encouraging you to share your story with someone today.
Next time on The Story.
When we first started it, we didn't have very much support from the prison or anyone else. But by the end of it, I think we had something like 20 people, and they busted us up into different units. And we sort of worked out that there were probably 200 men doing Bible studies in that jail by the end of what we'd done. So yeah, it was pretty amazing, eh?
Over 10 years ago, Rod Donovan from Chinchilla was addicted to drugs and at a very low point in his life serving time in jail. However, now his life has completely turned around. Rod takes a look back at his time in prison and the amazing things that happened while he was there next time.
The Story. Just another way Vision is connecting faith to life.